Hi, and welcome everybody to our sports betting podcast. As always, on Thursdays, I'm joined by fellow professional sports handicapper Doug Upstone. By the way, folks, if you don't know my puss by now, I'm Ross Benjamin. Anyway, Doug, we got week 5 coming up in the NFL. We were just talking off air. You were mentioning, geez, Ross, after this week, a lot of these college football teams will be done with half their season already. And it just seems like football season flies by so quickly. And the rest of the seasons drag on. And I don't mean that in any slight to the rest of the seasons, because we handicap every day, no matter what's out there. But anyway, how's it going, buddy?
It's going well, Ross. And and I think part of the reason for that, as you bring that up, is that, essentially we're looking at football as one or, a couple games on a Thursday and one on a Monday.
Yeah.
And so you have all this other, and primarily it's Saturday and Sunday. So it's not like, as you mentioned, dragging on like NBA season. Now, the NBA and the NHL season do drag on. I'm not going to deny that. But they're every day. And so I think that makes a lot of difference in terms of just your viewpoint, as to how something goes by. So, yeah, but hey, you know what? It's no matter what, we're doing something we both absolutely love. And whenever you have an opportunity to do something like that in life, time does seem to go faster just in general. So, yeah. I get it.
So, we're both men of faith. We discussed that off air as well. And I'm certainly not going to bore you with that subject, folks. But thank God, we're blessed. We do what we love every day. Anyway, Doug, any thoughts that you'd like to run by the viewers before we get to our NFL free picks for week 5?
Sure. Well, I just want to cover something real quick, Ross, and wanted specifically, obviously more and more people are betting more parlays and teasers and stuff like that. And you read articles, and I read something this week where the odds makers are having to not only take into consideration the line on the game, but they're also having to position now some of these lines according to some of their, in particular, teasers, okay? Because the growth of teasers, and parlays have always been there, there's just more of them, but teasers have really caught on a great deal more. And every Sunday, especially in the NFL, the liability that sportsbooks have on teasers is usually pretty heavy. And, for example, this past week, a lot of them needed New England to beat Tampa Bay or to, get to a right number. And so that's huge. And so from the standpoint, I used to get on my high horse, Ross, as you and I have done plenty of times speaking to each other.
Oh, yeah.
But one of the things, I said, you say, hey, you know what, teasers, don't bet them. It's, it's easy money for the books, and, and they make a lot of money on that. I could go into all that. I'm not going to. I know you're watching this video, you're going to bet teasers. I have been putting out teasers regularly, okay, for the last, say 5 years specifically. But what the difference was, I learned how to do it. Okay. And that's why you have to hit a strong percentage. So my recommendation very simply is this, is that if you're going to play teasers, you have to understand the key football numbers, in particular 3, 6, and 7. And you can also throw 10 in there as well. And as long as you have your teaser and you're going through a minimum of 2 of those numbers, so and more preferably 3. So where, for example, you have a favorite of, say, 7.5, okay, you want to take them down to 1.5, okay, on a 6-point teaser. When you do that, you're going to go through 3 key numbers, and the only way then that there's 2 ways you can lose. First of all, you could be wrong, have the wrong team, but the only other way that you lose is on a 1-point outcome, and 1-point outcomes are so infrequent, okay, that from that standpoint, you're in pretty good shape. So I would do that. And the other point that I would make is only stick with 2 team teasers. The reason being is that what can happen once you start adding on, okay, bad things happen. And every week you go on Twitter, you go on Facebook, you go anywhere you want to go, there's this tale of woe of hitting 9 out of 10.
Yeah, always. Always.
And guess how much you won by doing that?
Yeah.
So
And if you're going to do that, make sure you include the Sunday night game in there if it's the NFL, because at least you have a chance to hedge if that's the only game you need, but I would never recommend that. I think Doug's implying the same thing. Keep it down to two teams. Doug, I think one of the other major faults that sports bettors have sometimes is they get enticed by betting up to 6.5, 7.5 at higher juice. I had one bettor tell me the other day that he bought down from 8 to 1.5 on a teaser because he doesn't like losing by a half a point. And I said, well, what was your other game? He said, well, my other game I had was plus 7.5 or minus 7.5, excuse me. And I said, well, by doing that, you paid extra juice at 6.5 to buy it down to 1. You do realize if you only win that game by 1, that you're going to lose because correct me if I'm wrong, Doug, I don't play teasers, but if you push on a teaser on one of your plays in a teaser, you're a loser, correct?
Yeah. Yes. On a two-teamer. Yes.
Yeah.
It's you're done. So yeah. So that's not a good situation to put yourself in. So no, the basic point, key numbers, go through them.
Yep.
Okay. And limit it to 2. And if you do that, you increase the chances of your ability to win money.
So minimum, you want to cross a minimum of 2 key numbers, 3, 6, 7, or 10. And optimally, you'd like to do 3 if you can.
Yes.
So that's a good advice for those of you out there. And let me say this. I'm not totally against teasers. It's just not for me, but you're certainly better off playing a 2-team teaser than a 2-team parlay. You're adding value, even though the last I checked, more than half the time when you win a teaser, you would have won a 2-team parlay anyway. But I did not look at the fact that if you cross those key numbers, as Doug just alluded to, I'm pretty sure that probability, meaning you would have won the 2-team parlay anyway, is going to diminish if you're crossing those. And again, when Doug's implying this, he's saying cross at least 2 numbers minimum, possibly 3, and do it on both your picks. Correct, Doug? Not just on one of them. So
not just one. No, you want them both. Like, a good example was last week. And I don't know if I talked to you or who or spoke to, but somebody saying, well, take down Buffalo last week. Take them down from they were 16, take them down to 10. Well, you're landing on a 10. You're still on double digits. Now, the outcome of the game is inconsequential. It's just not a good strategy.
No,
that's more than any.
And again, you're paying extra juice and you're keeping it at a whole number on a 2-team teaser. If Buffalo wins by 10, you're going to lose anyway. Right. So again, I would just follow Doug's advice. I think that's very sound advice on a teaser. And keep it to a 2-teamer, like Doug says, and try to cross at least minimum 2 key numbers on both picks. Very good advice, Doug. Very good thought process.
And the other point of all of this, when you're talking about juice, okay, the biggest thing about sports betting and pretty much money in general in life, it's not how much you make, it's how much you keep.
That's just true. Anyway, Doug, I did looking back on the first 4 weeks, I was a little surprised to see the underdogs, how well they're doing. As a matter of fact, through the first 4 weeks of the season, underdogs are 37-25 against the spread. So of course, there was a couple pick'em games in there, and you might say, well, there's 64 games played, Ross. Well, the pick'ems aren't included. There was 2, but the underdogs 37-25 against the spread, 59.7%. I think that comes to. And how about this? Away underdogs of 4 or less, 16-5 against the spread this year, which is over 80. So I'm sorry, 76% plus. So my point being is, those kind of trends don't ever last very long. So buyer beware, because one of these weeks we're going to see the favorites go 10-4, or something like that, 10-6, 12-4. So any thoughts on that, Doug, whatsoever?
Yeah, well, I think that points to two things that you've seen is that a lot of sharper bettors, okay, have done quite well, okay, because primarily sharp bettors, they don't focus all their attention on underdogs, but they see the greater value in underdogs. So I think that's primarily why that's occurred. And at the same time, the sports books have also done well, okay? They
Yeah.
haven't killed it, but they've done well in a lot of these. So I think that's where that goes. Now, what's going to happen going forward? As you said, Ross, you know what? NFL is a week-to-week league, and anything that, as you say, if what's the old story? If it's going too well, it probably means it's going to end.
Yeah.
And so that's just kind of how that goes. So yeah, you have to be very aware, and that's why in handicapping, you look at the numbers, you study the numbers, and look at those. You don't worry about, trends are, I'm not saying discount them, but don't base your opinion on something that's occurring at the moment.
Exactly right, Doug. So I'm not trying to employ folks that you should go out and bet all 16 favorites this week. I'm just bringing up, something that's worth mentioning and an interesting topic of discussion, because Doug's right. I mean, look, bettors, for the most part, especially those who don't do it for a living like we do, tend to lean toward the favorites all the time. Also tend to lean going over the total. And if you look at those underdogs, and the under has come in tremendously on those away underdogs of +4 or greater, or 4 or less, excuse me. Not only are they 16-5 against the spread, Doug, but I believe they're 13-7-1 to the under as well. So something to keep an eye on. Something, if you're going to bet a lot of underdogs in the next couple of weeks, something to maybe keep in mind. But like Doug said, if you like a game, don't just get off of it because underdogs are 37-25 this year. So anyway, Doug, you got a free pick for us in the NFL on Sunday, and without the drum roll involved, because I don't have one. What do you got?
Well, I'm going to go with an underdog, Ross, and it's going to be one that fits what you just said, as it turns out, but not for the reasons that you said, okay? Because I'm looking at the situation, this one, Denver and Pittsburgh. Now, Pittsburgh comes in as a 1-point favorite, starting to see a couple of pushes, but, primarily it's still holding up at Pittsburgh at +1. For Mike Tomlin, he's in a tough spot right now. What does he do with Ben Roethlisberger? It is wholly apparent what the problem is. Okay. Ben Roethlisberger is done. Okay. Now, and when I say done, I mean as an NFL quarterback. So, it happens to all of them. And because of the Tom Brady model, okay, that he's established, everybody now is judged differently. Okay. Ben Roethlisberger, in a traditional world, a quarterback at 39 years old, of course he'd be done. Okay. But things have changed. So, what are they going to do? Well, that's a tough call, and it's made worse by the fact, Ross, that their offensive line is completely rebuilt and it's no good. They cannot run the ball. They have, they got the Harris, the running back from Alabama, who I think shows great deal of promise, but there's just no holes for him to run through. So there's nothing they can do to slow down a pass rush that they're going to see. And let's face it, Ben Roethlisberger right now has the movement, the physical movement in the pocket of that of a statue. Okay. I mean,
that's being
he's
nice.
Going nowhere. Right. I mean, you measure if you're a defensive end, you're going to if he's 7 yards back, you can count how many steps you got to take in order to get there. Okay. So that's what the whole plan is. And they know that where it's going to be. Now, the Denver, okay, conversely, they won their first 3 games against, lousy opponents. And then last week they faced Baltimore, which, by the way, was my first 7-unit play of the year, which was on Baltimore. And by halftime, if you were on Twitter, you can see basically everybody that was from Denver was saying, this team sucks. So it went quickly. Okay. Yeah. So Teddy Bridgewater's out this week. Drew Luck has a chance to reclaim his job. I'm of the opinion that Luck doesn't have to be John Elway for him to win this game. He just can't be Paxton Lynch. Okay.
Yeah.
That's the difference. So I think Luck has the ability, if he's not throwing interceptions, to do well enough against the Pittsburgh defense, which is still pretty good, but they keep getting in bad position because the offense doesn't move the ball. And then along with that Denver defense, you know what? They should just absolutely dominate Pittsburgh's offense. I also like the fact that Denver, when they're coming off a game in which they scored 14 or fewer points, they're 8-1 against the spread. I'm going to take Denver plus the 1. It's only a short number, and I'm going to say they're going to win this game by 3 to 5 points, Ross.
Yeah, and I'm of agreement on that, Doug. And you could do a lot worse than Drew Lock as a backup quarterback. I mean, let's not forget, folks, this quarterback battle went down to the final preseason game in Denver. And by all accounts that I heard today, that Teddy Bridgewater is practicing and he is on schedule to play on Sunday. Now, that could change. So what Doug's saying is it doesn't matter who's that quarterback for Denver, either or. He likes the Denver Broncos, correct, Doug? Doesn't matter who's going to be correct, under right? Center.
Yeah, I saw that as well. And, I mean, do I think Bridgewater is better than Luck? Yeah, marginally so. If I was going to put a number on the game in terms of their value, I don't think it's more than 1, between the two guys in terms of point spread. So, no. So I like Denver because I don't think Pittsburgh's very good. And I think they got a lot of problems. And I don't think those problems are going away anytime soon.
They can't run the ball. They're averaging 15 points a game offensively. Yes, they did score 7 via a special teams touchdown against Buffalo. So when you look at their average, it's over 16 a game, but it's actually offensively 15 points per game, just a shade over 300 yards a game. And Denver, on the other hand, allowing a little over 12 points a game and somewhere around 270 yards a game in that neighborhood. So it doesn't seem like this is going to be a real good matchup for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I agree, Doug. Big Ben's got to take a dose of humility here. And I'm not so sure you want to retire in the middle of the season. You don't want to go out like that. And certainly I think Tomlin's going to do everything he possibly can not to bench him just out of respect. But at some point, he's got to realize, this is the end of the road. And I would rather see him make that decision than the Pittsburgh Steelers organization having to make that decision after all the success he's had for them over the years. In any event, I'm going to look at the, I'm up in Rochester, New York. So the Buffalo Bills are about 60 miles away from me, their home stadium. I got a pretty good handle on them. So you're not going to get me to give you a homer pick here. But I am going to look at the total, okay? The total is 56.5. Stop and think about that, Doug. You got Buffalo, the number 1 defense in the league in total yards and scoring. Yet this total is 56.5. Now, let's put a halt to, before we ordain them as the next 1985 Chicago Bears defense, let's really put things in perspective. They opened up the year against Pittsburgh. We just talked about their offensive inadequacies. The second week, they face the Washington football team, Tyler Heineke. Okay. Second week, Miami Dolphins. They knock out Tua in the first series of the game. And now in comes backup Jacoby Brissett, 35-0 win. Next game, they play the Washington football team. Tyler Heineke is a backup quarterback. Okay, not a bad backup quarterback, and I'm not so sure the Washington is not better off with him at quarterback than Ryan Fitzpatrick. Having said that, he's not Aaron Rodgers. Okay, so Buffalo pretty much shuts them down, although Washington did put up 21 points. Last week, they get their second shutout in 3 weeks. And who'd they face? The Houston Texans. Davis Mills I feel bad for the kid. First of all, he shouldn't be in this position this early in his career. Secondly, the best he's ever going to be, I'm sorry, I'll go out on a limb, is a backup quarterback. He was totally overmatched. Now the Bills have to play the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, Kansas City, I will say this. They've allowed 29 points or more in each of their first 4 contests. They can't stop the run, and Buffalo's running the ball very well. They're number 6 in run offense, but we all know that the Buffalo Bills like to put the ball in the air, and they have a triumvirate of wide receivers that could really do some damage, just like Kansas City. So Buffalo's not only up there defensively, but offensively as well. As a matter of fact, they've scored 40 points or more in each of the last 2 games. So my point being, the total's 56.5. It's up there for a reason. Here's the other thing, folks. Buy that down to 56. Well, Ross, if you're so confident, why do you want us to buy a half a point? Because it's just smart betting. You pay the extra juice, which is probably going to just be 10% on a total that high. And if you, the juice only counts if you lose, right? And I could live with a push, Doug. I can't live with losing by a half a point on a total. So Buffalo's number 1 defense, total yards and scoring, a little bit deceiving. Now, if they come in and they play a hell of a game against Kansas City, I'll be totally convinced. Okay. I think Buffalo is a legitimate Super Bowl contender. There's no 2 ways about it. I don't think I get an argument from Doug on that, because I know that I'm trying to look at this objectively as possible, but I do see this being a high scoring game. I do. I think this is going to be an extremely entertaining game. I go over the total of 56.5, but buy it down to 56, folks. If you can't do that, I mean, in this day and age, it's a very low probability that you can't do that. But if you're still dealing with one of these guys that answers the phone and doesn't want to give you that option, 56.5 is fine. I think this game, we're going to be looking at somewhere a 34-31, 38-31, that type of game. So I'm going over the total of 56.5. And Doug Upstone likes the Denver Broncos +1 over the Pittsburgh Steelers. Doug, back to you. What do you got coming up at DocSports.com?
Well, Ross, like I said, gotten off to a very good start in the NFL at 11-3. So that has gone well. And each of my best bets in the 4 weeks, I've hit them all. So that's gone along swimmingly in terms of, with the NFL. And yes, primarily it's been underdogs to back up what Ross said earlier that I have chosen. And so this week I have another underdog that I have going, and that's going to be another 7-star play this week. And along with, I got a full 10 play card that's college and pro, and you can pick all of those up at Doc Sports, the Doug Upstone page at Doc Sports. And let's see if we can continue keeping the winning going. 19-11, the last month overall. So looking forward to keep the train rolling, Ross. What is that? That was Aerosmith, as I recall.
Yeah, exactly.
Keeps it rolling. See if we can get it going again.
Just don't ask me to try to match Steven Tyler's vocals for you, because he's a freak.
Well, actually, now you probably could. I have to be honest with you.
In any event,
things have changed.
Yes, they have. Age takes a toll on all of us. I have a 10-star top play that will be going in on Sunday in the NFL in the game between the Cleveland Browns and the LA Chargers. And folks, since February 6th of this year, all of my 10-star top plays, which I never give out more than one of those in any sport on any particular day, 94-64. That's 59%. And if you're a dime player, which is $1,000 a game for those of you who are new to sports betting, you've made over $28,000 over that time. So not bad. So again, I would look for me at rbwins.com, my 10-star top play of the week in the NFL, and it comes in the Browns and Chargers game. Until the next time, which will be next Monday when we discuss college football. For Doug Upstone, I'm Ross Benjamin. I'd like to wish each and every one of you all the very best. Take care and God bless.